BYU has one of the most efficient offenses in the conference. So that's not to say they're going to get 15 yards every play, but LJ's going to get his 4 yards a carry. And Bear's going to get his first downs on 3rd and long or whatever, right? Like they are efficiently moving the ball down the field. And that's what I love about this offense. Hello and welcome to the Aptitude Podcast Studio. This is the Loyal Cougars podcast presented by TrueWear. I'm your host, Jake Edmonds, alongside Tosh McIntosh. Tosh, how was your conference weekend?
It was incredible. Had BYU. That was a fun game. We had the opener of the Duck Hunt, which I wait all year for, was this weekend, and conference was great. Can't complain. Fabulous weekend.
Is there an animal you don't hunt?
I grew up with a dad who's obsessed with hunting, and I definitely got that, whether genetically or just from going all the time. I really enjoy, especially with family. It's a great bonding thing, but the challenge of hunting is really fun for me.
So I think the last 2 months you've gone bear hunting, you've gone dove hunting,
deer and elk,
elk, and duck.
And it's miserable. I mean, I was up at like 4 a.m. just shivering in that thunderstorm and thinking, why do I love this so much? But I absolutely do.
Yeah, we love the football weather too. It is cooling off. So now we've got a new week. We've got, we'll talk about West Virginia in a little bit, but let's talk about the drop today, because I think this is the most out-of-control drop from TrueWear, from the Cougar Board merch store that we've had all season. So I'll start here with the shirt that I have. I don't even know what this is called, but it's kind of this like classic 90s graphics.
Look how ripped that cougar is.
The cougar is like super ripped if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, go head over and you'll want to see this, or just head to store.cougarboard.com. Anyway, royal shirt. It says "Welcome to Cougar Town" on the bottom. Very ripped cougar with cougars on top.
And so this is
like, out of control.
Cougar Board merch and TrueWear woke up today and chose mascot violence. So we have Cosmo just really going to town and beating up on Swoop here, which we're here. We're 2 weeks away from this game, so excited to see the whole stadium just walking around wearing these.
And it's not even Holy War week yet. I can't wait to see what they've got next week for the Holy War. But get yourself prepared for Holy War this week by picking this stuff up at the Cougar Board merch store. Okay. Let's talk about the West Virginia game, because it's weird that they played so well and yet they left so much on the field, it felt like. I want to start with Bear, because it seems like every week we start with Bear. We're always kind of putting Bear under this microscope. How would you evaluate Bear's game?
He showed everybody that he can throw a better deep ball than people realize. Like that. I was reading a lot of and listening to a lot of criticism and favor. People were kind of giving him half compliments, like, he's shown he can be a great game manager. Like, sure, he has a good completion percentage, but he only throws short passes. And then I feel like this game was the game that he came out to show everybody, I can throw a lot of middle to long range balls and really rack up yards if I need to.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like, I think a lot of that criticism early on was merited. I thought Bear wasn't great throwing the ball downfield. He underthrew. I think he went a lot for that back shoulder fade to guys like Chase and Parker, and it just wasn't working. I don't know if they just weren't on the same page or whatever, but he has kind of done away with that, and maybe it's just by design. Maybe he's been asked to not do that. Maybe he's realized that's just not what Chase is anticipating, but he's getting air under the ball and throwing accurate balls downfield. And when I say accurate, like, he's not throwing, that first pass of the game against West Virginia, he's not throwing Chase in stride downfield for a touchdown, but he's putting it in a position where he knows Chase is going to win a jump ball situation. And so he's giving Chase the best chance to come down with it. And again, yeah, it could be in stride, it could be for a touchdown, but it could have also been overthrown by 2 yards. So he's putting Chase in the best position. So he finished the game 18 of 25, 72% completion rating, which I don't think Jake Retzlaff, we compared Bear to Jake a lot, but I don't think Jake ever had a completion percentage that high.
No.
So 72%, 351 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. We'll talk about the interception in just a little bit. He finished with a 195 QB efficiency rating. Probably the biggest blunder of the game that he had was that option pitch. And I kind of want to break that play down, but what was kind of your initial thought of that play as it was happening?
Yeah, especially when you consider where we were on the field and things. Like, he had some other blunders, but that was the worst, all those considered. first off, it was actually the biggest ingredient is the defender made an incredible play. Like a real wow. That guy was real quick in getting back there, and then his reaction to get to that ball was really impressive. All that being said is Bears got to realize, don't throw the pitch there. Just cut your losses, go forward for as many yards as you can get. When that guy's just unrestricted and just don't have a turnover there.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I wrote down. I said that play was broken from the time the defender basically timed the blitz, right? He was blitzing. He was coming in. It wasn't a read. I think Hans Olsen said after the game, it wasn't a read because the guy's crashing in before the snap as if he's going to blitz. And so he blitzes. He times it perfectly. By the way, if that pitch gets to LJ's got green space. He's got so much real estate in front of him that he's running for 20, 30 yards downfield. And so the play call was fine. I thought Bear pitching it was questionable. I agree with you. He probably should have just cut his losses. I mean, I think in hindsight, it's easy to say that. I think in the moment, Bear's like, I'm going to get 30 yards out of this play. And, I think maybe 8 times out of 10, that defender's not even going to block that pitch. He's
Correct.
going to tackle LJ, or he's going to tackle Bear. Because I think a smart defender realizes that, maybe a different quarterback would have faked that pitch. And if he's diving for it, then Bear has open field in front of him, or he can then pitch after the fake, right? Like he can make other moves. I think he just guessed right. Like it's just a guessing game, and he guessed right.
Yeah.
And yes, Bear I think should have cut his losses. He should have cut it upfield, but I don't necessarily. I think the worst part of it was where they were in the field. The fact that they were inside the 10-yard line and it was recovered inside the 5-yard line. That was probably the worst part of that play. But I don't necessarily fault Bear for trying to make a play out of that, especially as fast as that play was moving.
Absolutely. And so the two things I really think back on in that play, one is our defense actually played a lot better that whole game than the score shows, because we gave them 2 touchdowns. There was that one, and then the running back Demooney's fumble. We gave them points. Second takeaway, though, is I was shocked in the stadium on Cougar Board how many people blame A-Rod for that. Like A-Rod,
it's every week. It's every week.
Yeah, it's like that guy can't win. He called an incredible game, and he has for multiple weeks in a row now. And a speed option, it's not like we were in the end zone. It was a totally safe, fair play. You got to play a little aggressive, but it was on the players. He called a good play. His player misread the situation in an unlucky, well-timed blitz. That play was not on A-Rod, is my other takeaway.
Look, I don't think it was on anybody but the defensive player that made a phenomenal athletic play. He jumped the route. I mean, let's give credit to him. And again, we've said it. Bear could have made a better decision. He could have cut it upfield. He could have gotten a yard or 2 instead of turning the ball over. But I'm telling you, man, you put yourself in that situation, you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You're trying to pitch that ball. That's where the play is designed to go. You're pitching that ball.
So what Bear plays really wowed you? Because there was multiple possible in this game. Which ones really you thought, wow?
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of leads into, or it's a good segue from what you were just talking about, which is A-Rod dialing up these plays. And I think, obviously, the big pass to Chase was probably the play of the game, even though it didn't result in a touchdown. And Chase will be the first to tell you he feels bad about that. He feels gross about that, right? He wanted to score that touchdown. But that play was set up because of all the rush attempts that BYU had earlier in that game. And so what West Virginia was doing is they were keying in on LJ. So any sort of play action, any sort of handoff motion to LJ was sucking in the defenders, including safeties. Like there were safeties that were, if there was any sort of play action motion, the safety would literally run towards LJ's side of the field, wherever LJ was running to get the handoff. That was his assignment. So he would literally take him out of a pass play if there was a pass play. And so in this case, there was a pass play. Both safeties kind of sucked in. All the linebackers sucked in. I think they said after the game, Chase mentioned that the play was actually meant to be a hitch route. And he and Bear just had this communication where like, hey, I'm going to beat this guy on the inside. The safeties are going to come up. And if that play's open, I don't know how they do this. Like, there's no verbal communication going on, but they realize like this play is open if this happens. And so Bear finds Chase right out of his break, not even his break. Like he literally just beat the defender, and right when he beat the defender, Bear found him. And
perfect pass.
Obviously, the rest is history. And I think it's funny that people are saying like that's an NFL throw, and that's like a 99th percentile throw. And it's like, yeah, the throw was great. The read was better. I thought the pre-snap communication. We've talked about communication between Bear and his receivers, right? That was probably the biggest thing he needed to learn coming out of fall camp was like timing with his receivers and communication with his receivers. Bear has shown time and time again that he's learning how to communicate. He's getting that communication down, and Chase is probably the biggest benefactor of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's made similar throws to that, but when the guy gets tackled for an 8-yard gain, it feels different. Mm-hmm. Like his read was where the magic was. Them ability to read. Hey, if we hit this slant quick, there's no one there to stop him. And I really loved his willingness to throw the deep ball even into non-wide open guys, because previous to this game, generally when he would throw it past 15, 20 yards, the guy was wide open.
Just sitting in his zone, right?
And the first play last week, wide open, but he threw it like 6 inches out of bounds. The guy caught it. Mm-hmm. This week, he was throwing it into some tight spaces. Even Chase Roberts had steps, but he wasn't wide open on the first play of the game. But then you also have later on, he threw one to Kingston where there was safety help. There was the corner somewhat, and he threw it in a hula hoop sized window for a perfect pass for a big game. Really, really impressed with his ability and confidence in his accuracy.
Yeah, that pass to Parker to me was the best play, with the best pass of the game for him. And that to me was like, I don't know, I don't want to put a percentile to it, but it was an NFL type pass.
Yeah.
Where he had a defender underneath, and it wasn't, he wasn't necessarily, he was beat by maybe a yard, but he wasn't like wide open. So he still had to loft it over to the defender underneath that was pursuing. And then he had a safety coming down crashing from over top. And so he had to drop it in between both defenders. And he did it on a dime, 35 yards downfield. By the way, Kingston, what a breakout game for him, over 100 yards receiving. I think his previous career high was like 50-something or 60-something yards receiving. So great game for Parker. I think Parker's kind of finding his own. Yeah. He's starting to...
Well, he looked like he had another gear of just like boost that he hadn't had previous this season. Mm-hmm. Like when he caught that screen pass, mm-hmm. and then all of a sudden just hit that next gear, and he was running away from all the defensive backs. And not to pick on Chase... I love Chase, but you saw Chase was not faster than their team's defensive backs, mm-hmm. where when Kingston had it and he hit the burners, everyone in that stadium saw it. He is the fastest guy on the field. He was visibly faster than their defensive backs.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason. I think he won the state championship in the 100-yard in the 100 meter. It was a 100 yard sprint in track in high school. So. Obviously, like Kingston is the speedster on the team. Now Chase, it's funny because Puka had the same criticism in college, or at least going into the draft, which was, he's not a top end speed guy. But Chase is proving, and Puka proved at the NFL level, and has proved, at the NFL level and at BYU, that you don't necessarily need top end speed to be an elite wide receiver. In fact, probably the biggest factor that's most overlooked in college and in the pros, at least by fans, maybe not by coaches and scouts, is the ability to run routes and get open. And Chase is one of the best. Like,
Chase
there's a reason.
An elite route
there's
runner.
a reason why Chase is so wide open downfield sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And it's not because of A-Rod's play calling, as much as we love A-Rod. And A-Rod, I think, understands that Chase can get open, but it's the routes that he is running. And I think, Carson Ryan, to an extent, is doing this well. He's running routes really well. Parker's running routes. I mean, I think Bear has a supporting cast that works perfectly for what for his progression into college football, and I think he'll be the first to tell you that he's being regarded as one of the best freshmen in the country. It's because of his receivers, as much as it is because now he's done great, and we'll talk about. I've actually got another play that I really loved of his, but his receivers are making it possible for him to throw 10 touchdowns, or I think it's 11 touchdowns now and 1 interception. And he'll be the first to tell you that. The last play that I really liked from Bear, and there were a lot, was on 3rd and 15. It was almost kind of a lost series, because 3rd and 15, I think they're near midfield, and so if they don't pick up the first down, they're probably going to punt it, maybe attempt a long field goal or a fake, as we saw in the game as well. But if they don't get it, the drive is pretty much over. I think they called a draw. It was a design draw play to Bear. And we've seen this before, right? We saw it against Colorado, or ECU, I think we saw it against.
Yeah.
Where he just outran everyone to the first down, or to a touchdown, I think, against ECU. 14 yards on 3rd and 15, just right up the middle. And it was, again, one of those plays where he just had to lower his shoulder and bowl 3 guys over. And I actually thought he got the first down. It was a terrible spot. I don't know if you remember this play.
I totally do.
He was easily like a yard past the first down sticks, and they marked him a yard short. But they went for it on 4th down. They converted. He put them in that position. And again, it's nothing super special. He didn't find anyone in a tight window. He didn't necessarily break ankles or outrun anyone to the first down yard line. He just bowled guys over to get there. It's an effort play.
He can do a lot of special things out there that not many quarterbacks can do. I'm going to add one more that I could just tell he was feeling more comfortable. And one of those signs is he threw multiple passes, as the NFL commentators would say, is off platform. Like sidearm with his feet not set, where he had a guy in his face and he just kind of sidearm flicked it to both times it was to a running back, where I just thought, hey, we hadn't seen him do that. His level of just like comfort and playing football for fun and doing what he knows he could do was at the highest we've seen. I was telling you before the show, I actually think that it was a good game to have that, where he can find his balance of at what moments can he be full comfort, but know, hey, that can lead to a couple turnovers. Or he's already proven through the first 4 games that he also has the ability to be like, no, I'm going to be a protect the ball guy and just make. And it's great that he has the ability to do both, because in a given season, there are times you need either one of those.
Yeah. So let's talk about the only time he really didn't protect the ball. And obviously we talked about the option pitch. He didn't really protect it then either. But his first interception of the season, by the way, taking a step back, I want to get away from this notion, and I've heard it kind of thrown out there that this interception was a good thing. Like it was he got that out of his system. He got the monkey off his back. I think you mentioned something similar, but I actually liked your point to this, and you can call this out. But the idea that because he got an interception in this game, he got it out of his system and he's not going to get one the next game. Yeah, like it's completely unrelated.
Yeah.
And it's very much football talk. And it's funny too, because then you've got like coaches and players that are like, well, we made a lot of mistakes, but I'm glad we learned from those mistakes during a win than a loss. It's like, how about you just don't make the mistakes? Like, let's just learn from non-mistakes. Like, do something right, learn from that right thing that you did, and move on. So I think anyway, it's just kind of this like coach speak that like, yeah, we learned from these mistakes and we're not going to do them again. It's like I'd rather you just not do them in the first place.
Yeah, no, I think there can be a false mindset of like, hey, someone's going to have 5 random interceptions sprinkled, and let's get all 5 of those out in the bad team. That's not how it works. Yeah. What I do think is true, though, is that all players, especially freshmen, need to learn what is the risk versus that worked in high school that doesn't work in college. And he obviously pushed the risk factor this game. So I am hopeful that he learns how to do that and when to not do that. Like I said earlier, that's my only thing where I'm like, I would rather him learn some of that in this game rather than in a big moment where he's having to play like risky and loose for the first time.
Yeah, and if I were to go back and watch that play, in fact, I have quite a few times, and shout out to Nate Slack on X who called this out. That play was, again, another just crazy athletic play by the defender. And I think this was he's their best linebacker, Wilson. When Bear throws that ball, by the way, so Wilson comes in on a blitz. I'll just kind of break this down. Wilson's coming in on a blitz, which for a tunnel screen, you want as many players as possible to blitz because that puts them behind the play. Like that a tunnel screen, which is what this play call was, is designed to beat a blitz. Mm-hmm. So this Wilson defender, linebacker, is blitzing. And so you think he's beat. Bear thinks he's beat, right? Because he's coming in. He's actually engaged with Bruce Mitchell as Bear is throwing the ball. He disengages within like a half a second and sees Bear's eyes and cuts the route. And I think there's two parts to this. I think that A-Rod, as much as we give him credit for his play calling, I think he went to the well a little bit too much with that bubble screen and with that tunnel screen. And I think at that moment, everyone kind of knew. In fact, I think the commentators even said this is Carson Ryan territory. So I think everyone's kind of realizing or knowing that, like, hey, Carson Ryan's a big threat at this point in the field, including the defense. And so they're kind of keying in on Carson, I think. And again, like really good defenders, they anticipate or they recognize a screen pretty quickly. And that's exactly what this team did. And so what happened was, they weren't sold on the screen. And so a lot of defenders pulled back, and it just left and I think even if Carson catches his ball, there's too much traffic. Like, I think the defenders they realize this is a screen. Yeah. And when we're going to pull back and we're going to light up whoever's coming across the middle. So if that ball's not intercepted, I don't think Carson gets more than 3-4 yards downfield anyway.
No. There was defenders around. I mean, that's what I think that you're right in that Bear on the pre-snap read thought, hey, this is going to be open because they're blitzing, but that's not what happened in the end.
And even during the play, like, he's seeing guys blitzing, and so he thinks like, oh, this is like an automatic. By the way, we talk about Bears mistakes, and yes, he threw an interception. He threw to the player the play was designed to go to. This wasn't like a read thing during a play. When you drop back to pass and you've got, if you played Madden, right, you've got like 4 guys running routes or 3 guys running routes, and you can choose like, oh, if this guy's covered, he's got, he's bracketed, I'm going to go to my second read, or I'm going to go to my third read, or I'm going to check down to my running back if none of those reads are open. That's not this type of play, right? This play is designed to go to Carson Ryan, and you can't throw to anyone else, because if you do, you're going to have an ineligible receiver downfield because your linemen are blocking downfield. Yeah. So like that, Bears just put in a tough position at that point. And so again, like, I mean, looking hindsight, because hindsight's 2020, could Bear have just like run the ball? Sure. But like, that's not, he's losing yards at that point. And like, the play is designed to go to Carson. Carson looks like he's open at the time. It's again, like, I just have a hard time faulting Bear for that play. And if I were to fault anyone, I guess I would fault A-Rod for going back to the well one too many times. But again, the defense just made a play. Cougar fans, the Holy War is almost here, and Cougar Board is ready with the Rise and Rumble collection. This Holy War drop includes a bold Holy War graphic tee, the breathable classic Cougar Birdie hat, and Welcome to Cougar Town tees in black and royal blue. Whether you're at the tailgate, the gym, or the stadium, this gear lets you show your true blue pride. Don't wait, the Holy War is almost here, and it's time to suit up, rise up, and rumble. Order today at store.cougarboard.com and make sure you're ready for the biggest game of the year. Cougar alumni know what it means to rise and shout, and that's exactly what TrueWear Services helps your business do. They specialize in merch production, swag, uniforms, custom printing and design, plus web stores and fulfillment, so repping your company, team, or school is seamless. You've built the brand, now it's time to showcase it. Partner with TrueWear Services today and give your organization the same pride and polish you showed in Cougar Blue. Go to truewearservices.com/CougarBoard to get started.
Going into this season, we knew we were dang good. When we lost Jake and we were going with a true freshman quarterback, that was the big question mark. That's why he's the talk of the town. He's the talk of the show right now. And I just want us to pause for a second. And we had a freshman quarterback that had 250 yards passing in the first half of a Big 12 game. Like, this guy could be special, and he's going to get better and better and better. If we wouldn't have taken our foot off the gas, he could have put up just silly passing numbers. And anyway,
or not turned it over twice.
Yes, that would have helped too.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what he does this year. Like, I don't think this is going to be his highest passing yards of the season. I think that he showed us he can do this.
Yeah, I mean, we could see more passing yards next week against Arizona, who is a more high-powered offense, and we'll talk about Arizona in just a second. But what I love about this offense is, it's not the most explosive offense. They're not going to get the most chunk plays. They're probably not going to score the most amount of points. I think it's funny that Utah fans are very heavily comparing their outcome against West Virginia versus BYU's outcome. They played a completely different quarterback. They really knocked him out of the game, right? And Wilkins came in second half and actually played pretty well against them. So if Wilkins plays that whole game, is the outcome different? Do they win? No. Is the outcome a little bit different? Probably. But I say that to say that Utah probably has the most explosive offense in the conference, if not one of the most, top 2, 3. BYU has one of the most efficient offenses in the conference. So that's not to say they're going to get 15 yards every play, but LJ is going to get his 4 yards a carry. And Bear's going to get his first downs on 3rd and long or whatever, right? Like they are efficiently moving the ball down the field. And that's what I love about this offense. And that kind of leads us into the run game, because I think in real time watching this game, I thought, man, our run game really sucks. Pardon my language. Our run game is not great, right? I thought LJ was getting stuffed at the line every time he touched the ball. And I look back on that game, and he actually averaged more than 4 yards a carry, which is all you ask for your running back. Now, did he get more than 100 yards for the 3rd or 4th straight game? No. He ended with 90 on 21 carries.
I'll take 90.
It's efficient, right? It's not explosive. It's efficient.
Yeah.
And we'll take that from an LJ Martin. By the way, and we mentioned this already, those plays to LJ, because West Virginia's game plan was to stop LJ, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, it was very obvious that anytime LJ was in, they were crashing. Every time there was a fake handoff or a handoff to him, they were crashing their safeties. They were bringing everyone to stop LJ, and he still got his 4 yards a carry. And we mentioned it already. It opened up other plays like that 85-yard pass to Chase, like the Bear read option or the read option to LJ at the goal line where everyone crashed to LJ, and so Bear had an open lane into the end zone from 4 or 5 yards out. Those plays don't happen if LJ's not being keyed in on and if LJ's not having an efficient game. And going back to your comment about the fans in the game, I loved that when BYU had the ball from the 1, I don't remember. I thought it was because they stopped West Virginia on the goal line, right? It was that crazy sequence where they had the Tanavasa, and we'll talk about Tanavasa in just a second. They had the Tanavasa late hit. They got to the goal line. They had a goal line stand that was called back because of an offsides, and then they stopped him again, right?
Yeah.
So like everything was going against them, and they still had this goal line stop. So they get the ball on offense from like literally inside the 1 yard line, and they ran a QB sneak, and then I think the next play was literally another just like dive play to LJ. And I got fans behind me that are like, throw the ball. Like, we're up freaking 21 points. Why do you why are we trying to why do you want to throw the ball from the 1 yard line? Like, let's get some breathing room. Let's punt it again. I'm fine with a punt in that situation, right? Like, that if that's worst case scenario, I'm totally fine with that. But like the idea that like A-Rod needs to throw the ball up 21 from inside the 1 yard line is absurd.
Well, he can't win because the people think he's too conservative, and then the same people will say that, hey, why is he getting so loose with the football? And he's just became like the guy to complain at any time when you need to get vent, and I think he's had a great year.
Yeah. So let's talk about the defense real quick. It's crazy how much we talked about the offense. The offense looked really good, and it was fun to talk about. Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker both went out in this game, and I think that's a big part of why we thought why it looked like the defense struggled. Now, did the defense struggle? We'll talk about that in just a second. But quick update on Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker based on what I've heard. So Jack Kelly, obviously, he went out and he was really favoring his shoulder/wrist/arm. We don't really know. I think at the time there were reports that he broke something, maybe broke his wrist.
I guess it looked really bad on TV.
That he hyperextended his elbow or whatever. I actually didn't think it did look that bad. I think the tackle looked weird. I think that's why it looked
I watched some of the highlights. I was at the game, and then I've rewatched some of the highlights. I didn't see that play, but from texts I was getting, people were like, "Oh, it looks like he broke his arm." And
and I saw the play, and I was like, I don't know. Like, people were saying like maybe his arm got stepped on or something. Anyway, I looked back at the play; it didn't look that bad.
When I was rewatching the game on TV, at the end of the game, he was smiling and wearing no sling. And then with Kalani's comments Kalani really was like insinuating that, hey, Kelly is probably going to be fine at some point soon.
Yeah. Said he even wanted to come back in the game.
Yeah.
Which was out of the question. But I did hear during the game from somebody who would probably know that it was a dislocated shoulder and nothing else. Now, granted, again, that's during the game. They haven't done any sort of tests or x-rays or anything, any sort of scans. So we may learn more probably today or tomorrow during media availability. I don't think we'll know details, but we'll know probably if he's out this week. My guess is that so I heard he dislocated his shoulder and that was it. My guess is that's probably a 1 to maybe 3 week recovery, depending. And a dislocated shoulder can have it's kind of a spectrum, right?
It all just depends on what it does to your ligaments.
Exactly.
When it's dislocated. So
exactly.
yeah.
Do you remember I'm trying to remember the defensive back for BYU, the corner that dislocated his shoulder? I feel like every single game. It would have been like in the early
like
2000s. He had just like really shallow shoulder sockets or something. He dislocated his shoulder all the time.
I have a friend who, like in pickup basketball games or at BYU intramurals, it seemed like every game it would dislocate and you had to pop it back in. And poor guy, like it just would always pop out.
Yeah, and I can't remember his name. If anyone listening or watching remembers his name, put it in the comments or tag me on X. But that's Kelly's injury. It sounds like it's relatively minor compared to what original reports we thought were. Glasgow, I heard, was just a sprained ankle. They were holding him out as precautionary. In fact, Jake Hatch on his podcast, I think this morning, it was his postcast on Saturday, said that Isaiah actually came in for the onside kick attempt towards the end of the game because Kelly was part of that personnel group, the onside kick personnel group, but Kelly was hurt. And so Isaiah's like, oh, well, Kelly's hurt. I'm going to go in. So Isaiah actually came in for a play in the second half. So I'm hearing it's just a minor sprained ankle. They held him out for precautionary reasons, and he will probably be back. I would be surprised if he's not back by Arizona.
I was impressed by the replacements, and we had heard good things about Ace Kafusi, especially Isara, Tim Few, 4-star guy that could have gone to Bama and Georgia, and I was glad that those guys got in and had their moments because I actually thought they played really, really well. And I'm still in some of your notes here, but I think when you look at the score, it looks like BYU's defense had a bad game, but they didn't. When you factor in that the offense gave West Virginia 14 points, and then we had a touchdown given up in junk time when the game was well in hand. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, BYU's defense really was very, very stingy, and I didn't notice any sort of big drop-off with our star players going out. I think that we are stacked with talent at linebacker, which is really, really good for this season, as there's always going to be games that you're not playing all your starters. And it's a really positive thing for me looking at next year and the year after, too. We've got some ballers at linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at the game, they only gave up 4.5 yards a play. I think against Colorado, they gave up 4.1. And people look back on those two games and they think, oh, the defense really struggled. Like they really had a hard time keeping Colorado and West Virginia in check. The reality is 4.1 and 4.5 yards per play is below average, meaning below average for an offense.
In a good side.
Yeah, good side for the defense.
Yeah.
So, I actually thought they played really well, all things considered. There was that interception by Therian Alexander and then the interception by Tanner Wall. We can talk. I mean, we don't really need to talk about that play. That play was the definition of luck. And, it's funny, we look back on this game and we think, well, if Bear doesn't toss that option pitch and doesn't get recovered at the 1 yard line, BYU wins by 30, or if he doesn't throw an interception, or if Jovessa Damuni doesn't fumble the ball inside the 20 or whatever, BYU wins by 50. And it's like, yeah, well, if West Virginia's receiver also catches that ball,
doesn't have it bounce off his
they
chest,
might win by 7, right?
Yeah,
it goes both ways, and I hate this what
and
if,
they got stopped at the 1, and so it could have.
If they score then
they left 14 points out there too. That's fair.
So it's very much a what if game, and it's always going to be a what if game, and that comes with football. But I do think the defense overall, in terms of looking holistically at the game, they played really well. That said, Tosh, I want to take a step back real quick and look at kind of the what the incoming portal transfers have done so far this season. Ranked in the top 5. There's quite a few that have come in this season, but we're 5 games in. I think we have enough data to really evaluate how well has this year's portal class done. And so I ranked him in the top. I put a top 5 ranking on him. My number 5 is Tiger Bachmeier. And I think Tiger's been fine. I actually thought Tiger would make more of an impact coming into this game.
Yeah.
And maybe that was naive of me to think that he would beat out a Parker Kingston for the starting job and be kind of what Parker has been this year already.
Especially when JoJo Phillips got hurt.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, Tiger's going to be putting up a lot of stats. And he's been solid, but we haven't seen him show the ability of, hey, he's going to put up some real meaningful stats yet.
Yeah. But he's been fine. I think
he plays a decent amount.
Yeah,
too.
other than his fielded punt return inside the 5, and then he had a fumble last game that went out of bounds.
Yeah.
Those are kind of his 2 blunders, but he's just been, he's been okay for when he's in the game. Number 4, I have Keanu Tanavasa, and I'm disappointed by this because I thought Keanu would be top 2.
Yeah.
If not top 3. I mean, Bear and Carson, I think we're kind of anticipated to be 1, 2, 1.
I would have thought that going
3.
into the season that Tanavasa was the clear number 1.
Sure.
Like, he was the one I was the most hyped on and he's been okay, but he has not. I don't even know if he's been our best D lineman. Mm-hmm. And he's been impactful and in a position that we need. I'm hoping he's saving his greatness for some of this upcoming gauntlet we're going against. But yeah, I think that where you have him ranked is pretty fair.
I also think a nose tackle is not a stat stuffing position. And so you're not going to see a lot of Keanu Tanavasa getting, a ton of sacks per se, or maybe TFLs. He more like allows his teammates, he takes on blockers.
There's the argument that our linebackers have looked so special this year because our D tackles, him included, have done a great job of taking up space and taking up blockers to allow our linebackers to run free in his defense.
Yep. So that's my 4 and 5. I have Andrew Gentry at number 3. Very, very high, getting high ratings in terms of PFF grades for his offensive line play. So I have Andrew Gentry at number 3. Number 2, I think top 2 is pretty unanimous, right? I think it would be pretty unanimous if you took a poll of 100 people. Number 2 is Carson Ryan. Number 1 is Bear Bachmeier.
Yes.
And for obvious reasons, I don't think we need to go into the why. I think Carson Ryan, just looking at what he was doing in fall camp, from the limited highlights that we saw of fall camp, Carson Ryan was going to be a target. And that's why I made that prediction that Carson Ryan would potentially lead the team in receptions, because he was one of the most highlighted players in fall camp from the highlights that BYU put out. And so Carson Ryan comes as no surprise.
My only disagreement with your top 5 at all is I think that Tiger is not the 5th. That hard name to pronounce, but I'm going to give it my best, is Kyle Safarchuk.
Got it.
Thank you. Offensive lineman, transfer from SUU. He's in the top 5, so I bump out Tiger.
Yeah.
He's been rated really high by PFF, especially in his pass blocking. It's almost a good thing that fans haven't heard of him, because when you're playing at offensive line and you're not getting called out for dumb mistakes, that's a good sign. So he's been solid. Came in as a transfer, playing a lot. Shout out to Safarchuk. I shouldn't have gone twice. I should have stuck with
Kyle.
Nailed it the first time.
Just Kyle. We call him Kyle. Yes, and that's a solid top 5. I think honorable mention would be Justin Kirkland. We just haven't seen enough of him yet, and
hopefully he plays his way into that.
I think he does play his way into that if he stays healthy. This episode is brought to you by Aptive Pest Control. Aptive believes that every home should be enjoyed. They tailor their pest control treatment plans to target pests when and where they're most active. Plus, if you see pest activity between treatments, Aptive will return to take care of the problem at no additional cost. It's their way of making sure every customer is satisfied and every pest is controlled. If pests stay away, Aptive is why. Visit AptivePestControl.com/loyal cougars or call 844-966-4787. Mention this promotion to get your initial treatment for just $29. That's AptivePestControl.com/loyal cougars or call 844-966-4787. Terms and conditions apply. Get home field advantage with Aptive. Okay, we've got about 5-10 minutes. Let's talk about Arizona. I actually watched 2 games from Arizona season last night. I'm a nerd and stay up until 11 o'clock at night watching opponent football games. Arizona looked pretty good against Oklahoma State. They looked not as good against Iowa State. And when you look at their team by the numbers, they are very much an average, kind of middling Big 12 team. Now, I think this is, as we've said all year, like this is probably the toughest game yet that BYU will have played. Maybe Colorado. I think Colorado actually looked pretty good last week. But Arizona at home. Now, granted, their home field advantage is non-existent. I don't know if you watched their Oklahoma State game. It said they had 40,000 fans in attendance. I think it was closer to like 20.
Yeah.
So their home field advantage is a little bit
and
non-existent.
we'll have a lot of fans there.
Yes. Oh, totally. We might fill half the stadium.
Yeah.
So maybe the home field advantage is non-existent, and maybe actually favor us. But by the numbers, they are, and I'm going to give you a lot of numbers here. They're 8th in scoring offense, very middle of the pack. They are 4th in scoring defense. So their defense is pretty good. 8th in total offense, 3rd in total defense. They are 13th in rush offense. I think that's a little deceiving, just because they pass it a lot. That does not mean they're a bad running team, and I'll tell you why in just a second. They are 4th in rush defense. They are 4th in pass offense, number 1 in pass defense. They allow the most sacks, and it's probably because they just attempt a lot of passes, but they allow the most sacks in the conference. By the way, these are all conference rankings. And they are 3rd in the conference in interceptions. They have a 4-1 record. Their only loss coming to Iowa State, a 39-14 drubbing to Iowa State. They did beat Kansas State by 6, which is not impressive.
Correct.
Kansas State's a bad team. So I think it's very, it's kind of funny. We're like 5-6 weeks in. What, 6 weeks? 7 with a bye? I think it's 6 weeks. And there are still so many conference teams where we just don't know how good they are because they've played really bad teams or they've played really good teams and lost to them. There's no like kind of this in-between. I think BYU has the most in-between games with like Colorado and ECU.
Yeah.
And even those teams are more still, below average teams. So is Arizona good? I don't know. Like it's really hard to tell.
So I think Noah Fifita, I'm a big fan. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, and people have forgot about how baller he was 2 years ago. The guy can sling it. He doesn't have a good enough cast around him, though, and he also will hold on to the ball too long and take sacks. I think BYU wins, and I think BYU wins big.
Okay.
And so here's what's against that. Vegas is against that. We're only 2.5 point favorites.
I think it opened as a push.
Yeah, it was like 1 and 2. Vegas thinks this is going to be a very close game. The other thing, they're 4-1, so that looks like, hey, they must be good. Here's why I'm telling you they're not good. They have played 3 crappy teams, and of course they beat all of them. Weber State.
4 crappy teams.
Yeah.
If you want to include Kansas State.
Yeah, that's the fringe. So Hawaii, Weber State, and Oklahoma State are bad. And then you have Kansas State, who is also bad. And they barely beat Kansas State, like 6 point, less than a touchdown win. They've only played one good team in Iowa State. And we just saw last week, Iowa State's not they're not like unbeatable. And they got routed by Iowa State.
They were in Ames, so I think that's a factor. But you're right.
If Colorado played this schedule, they would have the same record.
Yeah.
If ECU played this schedule, I think BYU wins and we win big this week, and it's going to give us a nice little momentum swing going into the following week. Our defense will get a lot of sacks. We will make things tough on Arizona. And I'm just not – I think they're a paper tiger. They're the weakest 4-1 team right now. And
maybe behind Utah, though.
Utah is the weakest 4-1 team.
Totally.
Arizona is second on that list.
Clip that. All right. So I agree with you, and I'm actually surprised that Vegas came in. I thought I had heard that they were a push. I thought it was they weren't.
I think
they
opened as
anything.
a 1 point favorite.
So I'm on VegasInsiders.com. They have them they opened as a 3 point favorite,
okay,
and it's dropped to 2.5. Some places have them 1.5. Either way, I'm surprised that the spread wasn't more similar to Colorado, because I do think Arizona and Colorado are very similar in terms of talent.
Yeah.
In terms of where they'll finish at the end of the season. And you're right. I think Noah Fifita is a phenomenal player. What I don't love about Noah Fifita, and you mentioned this, he holds the ball a little bit too long, and when he gets pressured, he kind of forces it. And you shouldn't, he's a veteran or upperclassman quarterback, and so he should know when to get rid of the ball. But he's very much he's elusive, right? I think he makes plays happen more often than not, but when he doesn't, he makes very terrible decisions. And when he throws off platform, I think he sails the ball.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he had as many interceptions as he did last year. Now, this year, he's been a lot more efficient. And again, I think it's against terrible competition, but he's got 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's 106 for 164. I think that's 65% passing, which is fine. Like it's nothing to write home. It's not Bear Bachmeier, right? Bear's like in the 70s. But he's doing fine. What he does well this year, and he didn't do this last year, right? With McMillan last year as his primary receiver, he doesn't really have a primary receiver. He spreads the ball around. He's got 5 players with over 100 yards receiving. His leading receiver is Javen Watley.
Guy transferred in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's got 316 yards on 22 catches. That's fewer yards on more catches than Chase Roberts, right? So, he doesn't have this like elite primary receiver that he's gonna go to all the time. Now, is that good or bad for BYU? I think BYU would rather key in on one receiver and bracket one guy. So the fact that he can spread it around, I think it makes it more difficult for BYU's secondary. This is kind of where I think BYU might struggle. And you're probably not going to hear a ton about this guy because Noah Fifita in the passing game is Arizona's bread and butter. But Ishmael Mahdi, who is their running back, looked really good against Oklahoma State. And it's funny, you actually look at his numbers against Oklahoma State, and they're pretty pedestrian. But he had some chunk plays against Oklahoma State. I think he had he netted like 60-something yards, but a lot of those were after a big loss in the game. Anyway, he had a bunch of chunk plays. He had 189 yards against Kansas State. He is a speedster running back that if he gets through the line, and gets into open space, like he's going to be tough to defend. So to me, he's kind of this like dark horse player coming into the game, and I don't know if Arizona really realizes how good, and maybe I'm just overestimating how good he is, but I don't think Arizona, because they don't utilize him as much as they probably should.
Yeah.
But he's the guy I'm worried about the most, more than Noah Fifita, more than their passing game. It's Ishmael Mahdi.
Yeah, I like we have one extra day to kind of heal up for Jay Hill to put up a scheme. Maybe I'm over optimistic, but I'm feeling good about this week, and it's fun that we're in the heart of football season with some real fun games coming up.
Yeah, it's exciting to watch, and this is the beginning of their gauntlet schedule, and now Arizona's not necessarily part of their gauntlet schedule, but
they're
it really
4-1. It looks good especially for voters. I mean, BYU went up 5 spots in the AP poll this last week. I don't think that most of the voters are going to dive into who has Arizona played like we did.
Totally.
They're going to see there's a 4-1 team versus a 4-0 BYU. BYU's going to beat them, and it's going to look good optics wise.
Yes, yeah. And this is kind of the beginning. The season is a bell curve, right? We're very low until really now, and it's going to start to curve up. And this is a great primer, I think, for the Utah game. I love that Utah has Arizona State, which could be kind of a trap game for them. They still have to. They can't ignore Arizona State.
No.
And so, I don't know if they ever do look past the game that they're playing to look ahead to BYU. I'd be surprised if they don't plan a little bit for BYU, but they're not going to really be able to against Arizona State. And so, I kind of love that both teams have these matchups because this is a primer to the Utah game. And so if they can take care of business against Arizona, then it really gets tough, and we can start talking about we're already bowl eligible at that point, right? If we win next week, it's 6 wins. So they're bowl eligible. Now what's the next step? Can you make a conference championship? Can you win a conference championship? Can you make the playoffs? And the Utah game is going to be the one to decide that. We'll talk about that more next week, though. For now, head on over to YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, leave us a comment, and go subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts as well. That'll do it for us this week. We'll talk about the Arizona game and preview Utah next week. Until then, I'm Jake Edmonds. That's Tosh McIntosh. We'll see you later.
Have a good one.